Another Vietnam. Word that other Americans were taken prisoner has prompted an angry warning from President Clinton and the Secretary of Defense.
The United States, not the United Nations, the United States will view this matter very gravely and take appropriate action.
We will respond forcefully if any harm comes to those who are being detained.
Yesterday, 5 Americans were killed when their helicopter was shot down. And in an earlier incident, 3 American Marines were injured and a UN peacekeeper killed when a landmine exploded under their Jeep. The violent events in Somalia have prompted members of Congress to call on the U.S. to rethink its policy there.
That Americans, by the dozens, are paying with their lives and limbs for a misplaced policy.
Already there are voices saying that if U.S. forces leave Somalia, civil war, chaos, and famine will result. Mr. President, that is exactly what is wrong with getting involved in nation building in Somalia in the first place.
At the Somali mission tonight, officials condemned the barbaric acts committed by some Somalis and apologized to Americans for what has happened to American soldiers. But officials there urged the international community not to abandon its humanitarian mission there.
If at this stage the UN is discouraged, I think that's the end of Somalia.
Now, we have just received late word that one of the Americans killed in Somalia today is Private First Class James Martin, and he is from Fort Drum in upstate New York. So we have an identification on one of those soldiers in the metropolitan area being identified as from the metropolitan area. That word you just heard from the Somali mission, that plea for the international community to stay involved, has not fallen on deaf ears, at least as far as the Clinton administration is concerned. Secretary of State Warren Christopher said tonight that the United States will remain in Somalia until Somalia is secure. Reporting live from the United Nations, I'm Carol Iavana, Channel 2 News.
Thank you, Carol. On to our other major story tonight, the bloody end to the siege at the Russian Parliament building. Government troops blasted their way into the building called the Russian White House. Part of the building remained on fire tonight. Americans are among the casualties. Channel 2's Tony GUIDA is live in our newsroom with the very latest. Tony?
Dana, Boris Yeltsin's victory against his hardline opponents was a bloody business. Scores of Russians died, the exact numbers not known. But bodies were stacked outside the Russian White House. U.S. officials say 1 American is among the dead, 5 others injured.
As night fell in Moscow, snipers and machine gun fire kept Yeltsin's forces from taking control of the Parliament building where Russians killed Russians today. It was the worst political violence since the Bolshevik Revolution. A military attack on Russia's parliament, ordered by Russia's president, against opposition members of parliament, touching off 10 hours of fierce fighting that both sides claim was a struggle for democracy.
There is no democracy in Moscow tonight, nor has there been since September 21, when Mr. Yeltsin, and we forget this, closed down not only parliament, but the elected vice president, the elected constitutional court, and the attorney general. That precipitated these bloody events.
All day long, Russian tanks pounded the parliament's headquarters. Even as the battle raged, Yeltsin went on television to say he was putting down an armed revolt organized by vengeful communists and fascists. President Clinton reiterated United States support for Yeltsin.
We very much regret the loss of life in Moscow, but it is clear that the opposition forces started the conflict and that President Yeltsin had no other alternative.
Tonight, I spoke with Russian expert Stephen Cohen, who believes Clinton's unconditional support of Yeltsin is a mistake.
He should have said somewhere that that parliament had also been elected, and that when you destroy parliaments in Russia, you revert to dictatorship and even despotism.
Late today, Yeltsin's chief rival, Alexander Rutskoy, who had vowed to fight to the death, was forced to surrender. He and Parliament Chairman Kazbalatov were taken to prison. Yeltsin had won a bloody battle, but a war may be yet to come.
What happens next is the battle moves to the provinces. A lot of deputies had looked to the central parliament for leadership. They're afraid of Mr. Yeltsin. Will they resist? Will they capitulate? Will he need to use the army in the provinces?
Boris Yeltsin is promising free and fair elections in December. But with the army in the streets of Moscow, with the country's elected vice president in prison, with Yeltsin controlling national television, where most Russians get their news, it's hard to see tonight how elections can be either fair or free. Ernie?
Okay, thank you, Tony. This just in, Channel 2 News has learned that an unidentified woman was sexually attacked by a group of 3 to 4 men on a Long Island Railroad tonight, on a train that is. It happened aboard a Port Washington train at about 9:04 tonight. The woman told police that she believes her 4 attackers got off at the Great Neck station. The woman is now at a hospital for examination and for treatment. Police are looking for the alleged attackers. In other news tonight, a shocker concerning Joey Buttafuoco. The Nassau County DA's office tells Channel 2 News Buttafuoco has agreed to a plea bargain in his statutory rape case involving Amy Fisher. The DA's office says Buttafuoco will plead guilty tomorrow to 1 count of statutory rape. If approved by the judge, all other charges against the 37-year-old Buttafuoco would be dropped, and Buttafuoco would face up to 6 months in jail. In the past, Buttafuoco has strongly denied having sex with an underage Fisher.
Prosecutors charged they launched a war of terrorism on America. 4 men went on trial today for the World Trade Center bombing that killed 6 people and injured more than 1,000 others. In opening arguments, prosecutors called the February 26 blast the single most destructive act of terrorism ever in the U.S. Among those on trial, the alleged mastermind of the bombing, 34-year-old Mahmoud Abu Halima. The trial is expected to last for months. Ernie?
A second week of testimony began before the Special Commission investigating police corruption here in New York City. Today, a former head of the Police Department's Internal Affairs Division was on the hot seat. Daniel Sullivan served during the 1980s. He was asked why he didn't do something about road cop Michael Dowd's drug dealing and stealing. Sullivan said that he didn't remember a memo allegedly sent to him 5 years ago detailing Dowd's illegal activity.
You never recall in August of 1988 ever hearing that Officer Dowd and his partner, a man named Kenny Urell, were making about $8,000 a week.
I don't recall ever hearing that.
During the corruption hearings, the Internal Affairs Division has repeatedly been criticized for being inept and uncooperative when good cops reported corruption. The hearings resume on Wednesday with Police Commissioner Kelly testifying. Dana?
The new shape of the race for mayor in New York. Coming up next, the results of our exclusive Channel 2 News New York Times poll. Plus, the Navy's top officer gets off the hook in the tailhook scandal.
And later on, getting your family out alive in case of fire. Storm and Frank Field begin a series of special reports. And Storm, more great weather aboard?
Well, Ernie, there's some clouds moving in our way, but will it cast a little pallor on our upcoming weather? I'll have all the details on that when we come back.
Channel 2 News, sponsored by Air France.
Some surprising findings tonight in a new Channel 2 News New York Times poll on the shape of the mayor's race in New York. Channel 2's Marcia KRAMER joins us now with results. Marcia?
Well, Dana, there are 29 more days, but who's counting until the mayoral elections? 4 weeks until for Mayor Dinkins and Rudy Giuliani to try to knock each other out of the ring. But right now, the race is just about a dead heat, according to our exclusive Channel 2 News New York Times poll.
Most of the voters are not strongly committed to the candidate that they say they're going to vote for. It's a very close election, and a movement of relatively few people can make a huge difference.
Our poll found that if the election were held today, Dinkins would score 44%, Giuliani 41%, and conservative George Marlin 2%, with 13% undecided. But the 3-point margin between the two top contenders makes this a dead heat, since it's within the 4-point margin of error. Support, however, is amazingly fluid. Nearly 30% of Dinkins supporters and almost 40% of Giuliani supporters say they might change their mind before voting on November 2nd. There is also a strong anti-mayor vote. Nearly 1 in 4 people say they're supporting Giuliani because they dislike Dinkins. Not surprisingly, crime is the biggest issue on the minds of voters. Nearly half say that's what the next mayor needs to fix first. 59% say they feel less safe than they did 4 years ago, when Dinkins was elected on the promise to be the toughest mayor on crime the city has ever seen. Voters think Giuliani is better suited to the task. 68% say Giuliani has the right stuff to fight crime, while only 40% say Dinkins does. On another issue, 67% of New Yorkers assess the state of race relations as generally bad. And although Dinkins was elected largely because he was seen as a healer, Only 8% say race relations is the best thing he's done as mayor. In comparison, when asked the worst thing he's done, 1 in 3 cite race relations and incidents like Crown Heights, Washington Heights, and the Korean boycott. Today, Giuliani's running mate, Herman Badillo, called on Mayor Dinkins to put a stop to what he called a choreographed campaign of racial politicking.
David Dinkins and his supporters are playing the race card almost every day in order to avoid what should be the central issue of this campaign, namely competence.
Well, the mayor's response to the attack was to charge that Badillo was Giuliani's stunt double, sent out to play up statements by Dinkins supporters that the mayor has already disavowed. Dana, Ernie?
Seems like both candidates have to worry about the people who might change their mind. That's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people, and that's why our pollster says that just a change of a slight number of people could have a huge effect on the race.
And they're in a dead heat right now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Striking workers of the New York Post put down their picket signs today, and they picked up job applications. Owner Rupert Murdoch told Newspaper Guild employees if they wanted their old jobs back, they would have to reapply for them. But they were given no guarantees that their old jobs would be waiting for them.
I think that probably less than half of us will get a job back.
I mean, it's been humiliating. I mean, to kick people out and not give them their pension money. People have been here 20, 30, 40 years. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
The Guild's week-old walkout fell apart when the Post's other unions decided to cross picket lines last Thursday. No word tonight on how many Guild members have been hired back so far.
Los Angeles police officer Lawrence Powell, convicted in the Rodney King beating, will soon be behind bars. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court refused to let Powell remain free while he appealed his conviction for violating King's civil rights. Fellow officer Stacy Kuhn could soon face a similar ruling.
Tonight, the Navy's top officer is off the firing line for not preventing the tailhook sex scandal. Defense Secretary Les Aspin has decided not to force Navy Admiral Frank Kelso to retire. Navy brass wanted Kelso fired because he didn't provide leadership during the scandal. Kelso spoke at the 1991 Las Vegas convention, during which dozens of women were sexually assaulted by drunken naval aviators. Aspin says firing Kelso is not the answer. Kelso was not accused of participating in or condoning what took place at Tailhook.
Coming up next, a young girl fights for her life. She was critically injured in a fire that killed her father.
And also preventing a disaster if fire breaks out in your home. We begin a series of special reports coming up.
New Yorkers know what they want, but they want to know where to get it. That's why they look to New York Newsday to find the hottest sales, the finest merchandise, and the best prices. Sure, other papers have advertising, but we're the paper shoppers want to shop with. So pick up a copy of New York Newsday and go shopping. New York Newsday. Truth, justice, and a buyer's guide to New York.
Customer Appreciation Month gives us a chance to thank our customers for being loyal all year long.
2-cent copies.
Gives us a chance to introduce our services to new customers.
They've been going to the wrong places maybe. This is where they want to be.
49-cent fax.
It's Customer Appreciation Month.
We're sure you'll love it. That's why we offer these prices.
$2 off on UPS.
Those are great deals.
Come in, see how we do things. We're sure you'll be back.
Take advantage of our special prices during Customer Appreciation Month.
Baseball is a great game to play. As an old friend of mine say, it's hard, but it's fair. I was not the best player in the game by far, but to be recognized is the biggest honor anybody could possibly have. Just so it's hanging there, they can see Albert William K-Line. That's fine with me. I've been a card member since 1973, and I know that when I hand on American Express, everything's taken care of for you.
American Express is welcomed in Cooperstown, and anywhere else the grass is green and the days are long.
Nothing sends chills down your spine and straight to your wallet like the cost of healthcare today.
Your medical bill, ma'am.
Which is why we're introducing HMO Blue to calm your fears with the largest choice of doctors.
Oh, yeah?
And low co-payments.
Really?
New HMO Blue from Blue Cross and Blue Shield of New Jersey. A better way of caring.
Tonight, a Brooklyn girl is still fighting for her life 4 days after a fire killed her father and left her critically injured. 12-year-old Jennifer Lundgren is in New York hospital with burns over half her body. Last Friday, her father ran back inside their burning house to save Jennifer's life. Firefighters say Walter Lundgren was overcome by smoke and died.
Well, just what should you do to get your family out alive when fire strikes? Tonight, Frank and Storm Field begin a series of special reports that addresses that question. Storm is joining us right now with information that could save the life of someone in your family. Storm.
All right, thanks very much, Ernie. Like you and others, the only fire training I ever had really was what we had in typical school fire drills. But that really didn't prepare me for what fires are really like. The most important thing about a fire in your home is to know that you can't see. It's black. Most families don't know this, and when they're not expecting the blackness, they panic. What you need to know is you're not going to be able to see, get low, and crawl out.
It's black. Firefighters know that. In a real fire, you can't see. Mrs. Gina Platino of New Milford, New Jersey, her husband Vincent, her daughter Stephanie, aged 9, Samantha, 4, will learn that. So will my son, Storm. The classroom is the Life Safety Complex in Mahwah, New Jersey. Using non-toxic artificial smoke, Chief John Evans of the Life Complex Center is about to demonstrate that in event of a fire, without a plan to get out alive, you may never survive. Within a minute or two, the hallway and bedrooms of this apartment fill with smoke.
Come to my voice. You're lost. You're in a closet.
It's not at all like the movies. You can't see. The result, had the Platino family been in a real fire, would have been a disaster.
I walked right past the doorway, I banged into the walls, and it was just totally at a loss. I was totally lost.
I guess I was surprised at how quickly I couldn't see. I mean, it was just, I had one moment where I just sort of like looked out and I had a little eye contact with Samantha and I caught Stephanie out of the corner of my eye and then I couldn't see anymore.
I figured I would have had the floor plan memorized, but you get so crazed that you just don't know which way to turn. And you lose all sense of direction.
Storm received his lesson by going through a training session with the Mahwah Fire Department.
Find your way out of the room, Storm. Find your way. Okay. Got the door. Is it open? Yep, it's open. Open in. Okay. Out.
Okay, Storm. Stand up.
People don't understand. You're in a fire, it's black. You can't see. And if you don't know what to do, holding that wall, following yourself around, if you don't know the floor plan, you're lost.
Fire produces black smoke. You're not going to see your hand in front of your face. It's important that you get out of the building. The heat and black smoke will force you to the floor. Don't expect to see. Just get out of the building.
All this week, we are offering fire safety tips in the News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Record, and in Newsday. You can also get a free Plan to Get Out Alive booklet at McDonald's. Tomorrow at 11, we'll look at another hazard your family will face in a fire, the intense heat.
Talk about having a plan. Nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. That's what it is.
Nobody has any idea, and most people who die in fires die because they had no plan, because the family had no idea what to do. Right. During a fire, after a fire, well, meeting together at a special place.
Maybe this will get some information out there. We'll see you again here tomorrow. Thank you, Storm.
And in a few minutes, Storm will return with the forecast.
And also authorities wonder who's been transforming walk, don't walk signs to deliver different messages. Story coming up. Later on, Sylvester Stallone uncovered. Coming up.
Want variety on your radio?
Let Mix 105 paint the picture for you.
In the middle of the night. The best music mix.
Wall-to-wall variety.
Mix 105.
105.1 FM.
WMXV.
American's Caribbean.
What to do?
There are hundreds of ways to enjoy our easy islands.
Where to go?
We can take you to more of the Caribbean than anyone.
What's the price?
Right now, we have flyaway vacation packages from $324 to $1,114.
Oh, so nice.
So when can we expect you? In American's Caribbean.
Something special in the air.
Tonight.
Yo,
Sylvester Stallone visits Dave.
They stuck my head on Dave's butt.
Plus,
quick, Melissa Manchester, you're on. Been waiting for the 94s to come out to buy a new car?
This is great.
By Mitsubishi.
When you choose a family car, you put all your eggs in one basket.
Pedestrians beware. New York City's crosswalk signs are sending some mixed messages. Police say that artists with a strange sense of humor are using stencils to change the words on those walk, don't walk signs. Crews quickly removed the messages, some of them reading sin and repent and conform and consume. City officials don't think that it's very funny. They say that tampering with the signs could cause some accidents, so something else to watch out for.
Here's Storm. With a look at the weather, and it was pretty out there today.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. You picked a bad week to come back.
Oh,
welcome back. I mean, we're happy to have you back, of course, but our weather, gorgeous today. And tonight it is fairly mild outside, 62 degrees. Normal low this time of year drops down into the mid-40s range, low 50s to mid-50s. We are going to be a little bit warmer than that because some clouds are coming in. It'll give us a little insulation blanket across the region. Humidity 52% and the winds coming out of the west. The winds will shift to a northwesterly direction once that frontal line comes through. Temperatures overnight tonight dropping down into the mid to upper 50s range for the most part, even as you move out of the city because of those clouds giving that little bit of extra insulation. Not much weather associated with this frontal passage. There was some showers in western New York and also in northern New York State and Vermont. Really not a problem for us, but some much cooler weather is back behind it. So tomorrow, once those clouds move out, we will have sunshine by the afternoon, but temperatures tomorrow are going to be about 9 degrees cooler than they were today. Our high today, 73 degrees. The good news is, as high pressure settles in, the cold air gets pushed out to sea, and we get even more warm weather. So tomorrow morning, mid-50s range, warming up. There'll be some clouds early left over from the overnight. Then as we go through the day, more and more in the way of sunshine, some beautiful weather to look forward to. And look at the 5-day forecast for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Temperatures continuing to go up, up, up. Of course, it clouds over in time for the weekend, but that's so far away, we won't worry about that right now. Let's just enjoy the week that we've got.
That can change too, right?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks, Storm. Coming up next tonight, tuning up for the playoffs. The teams get ready for tomorrow night's opening of the American League Championship Series.
And Sly isn't so shy when it comes to posing for a magazine. We'll be right. Whoa, we'll be back.
He was called the monster of Rush Springs. He beat his sons and molested his daughter. And when it got too much for the kids, they shot him in his sleep.
They did the only thing that they could do to survive.
Geraldo Rivera gets the inside report on this infamous Oklahoma story with interviews from those closest to it.
Did your brother, Linda, deserve to die?
Yes, he did.
Kids who kill their parents. How far would you go to stop the abuse? Turn to Geraldo.
Tomorrow at 4 on Channel 2.
And we're going right to sports now. Rock is here to tell us about the really big day tomorrow.
That's right. Playoffs begin to get serious now. Tomorrow, the Blue Jays begin their bid to become the first team since the 1978 Yankees to win back-to-back world titles. The first team standing in the way, the White Sox. Today at Comiskey Park, both Toronto and Chicago went through their practice sessions. The big question for the Sox, how slugger Frank Thomas comes back from that late-season arm injury. Meanwhile, the Blue Jays come in pretty healthy and very hungry for another World Series ring.
They're a dangerous team. I think one of the important things is for us to get on the board early, too, because they're a real tough team. If they get ahead of you, they've got so many ways to add on a run and so much speed to use, and they definitely can be a tough team when they're ahead of you.
If you've never been in a playoff, you might have a tendency to have just a few more butterflies than normal. But those guys are good players over there, and they'll go away after the first pitch, so I don't think there's an advantage.
Well, the Game 1 pitching matchup sees McDowell facing Toronto ace Juan Guzman. You can catch both Major League playoffs and the World Series right here on Channel 2. As we begin baseball's postseason, the NBA preseason camps get underway. Nick coach Pat Riley hopes his team can take another big step forward this time around.
When you have a great belief about accomplishing something and you come up short and it happens 2 or 3 years in a row, I mean, you can either quit or it makes you tougher. And so I just hope that our experiences the last couple of years have made us tougher.
Today, the Knicks reach agreement with free agent forward Anthony Bonner, who averaged 14 points and 6 rebounds last season for the Kings. A big injury may take some NFL punch out of an already struggling Giant offense. Running back Rodney Hampton has suffered a sprained knee and ankle and may miss the Redskins game. Bad news for a Giant offense that's sporadic at best. And
I thought we were going to get lucky and overcome all those mistakes, but we didn't. And you know, when you get the ball in scoring position, keep getting it back, all those things, and not be able to just take advantage one time, it came back to to get us at the end.
Meanwhile, the Jets may have lost to the Eagles Sunday, but they have gained a new offensive star in tight end Johnny Mitchell. Mitchell showed everybody how dangerous he can be, scoring a trio of touchdowns against Philadelphia.
We still lost the game, so it meaningless, to the performance that I had out there today. It just didn't matter, other than we didn't win the game. That's all that mattered, winning and losing. There's no in between.
Star is born. By the way, the Jets injuries, Jim Sweeney and Scott Mercer are out a few weeks with ankle injuries. Other NFL news, the Eagles have signed former Jet quarterback Kenny O'Brien to be backup to new starter Bubby Brister. Monday Night Football right now in the fourth quarter, Washington trailing Miami 14-10. I'm rocking that sports. Dana?
Thanks, Rock. Finally tonight, Sylvester Stallone, as you've never seen him, Sly, is not shy in the upcoming issue of Vanity Fair. He posed nude for photographer Annie Leibovitz, both alone and with his girlfriend, model Jennifer Flavin. The 47-year-old Stallone says he works out 2 or 3 times a day to keep his muscle man physique. And you can be sure that, see, I'm trying to read it and look at the pictures at the same time. You can be sure Sly will have a lot more to say when he joins David Letterman next on The Late Show.
I saw one of the promos. They said that he said that they put his head on Dave's body.
All
so
right.
You never know.
The thinking man, right?
There's all to Dave.
That's Channel 2 News for this Monday night. I'm Dana Tyler.
And I'm Ernie Anastos. And as we said, The Late Show is coming up next year with David Letterman. Stay tuned. Have a good night. See you tomorrow.